Boys, let's go to USC. Let's stick in the Big Ten. And this is a fascinating conversation to me because USC fits in the Big Ten about as well as Lizzo fits in running a 5K. It just, especially early, right? And I don't want to turn this into a bash Lincoln Riley fest. He did move on from Alex Grinch, right? You brought in UCLA's DC. You took that defense from 87th overall to 11th last year. You bring in North Dakota State's head coach, Matt Entz, to coach the linebackers. I think he's trying to change it. But when you look again at the personnel that they have, and we can talk about Bear Alexander, the guy who's, almost transferred more than anybody, I don't think they have the personnel to fit in the Big Ten well early. And philosophically, and from an identity standpoint, David, I don't think this is going to work out for USC, especially in year one.
Man, it's interesting you say that. I mean, I remember playing USC in the Rose Bowl my freshman year, and those are the years when they had
totally
defenses to knock your socks off. I mean, Troy Polamalu, Brian Cushing running around.
Taylor Mays is my favorite
Brian Cushing can sack the quarterback and cover you in the back third.
Polamalu.
So I know that they have access to that type of talent, right, in recruiting. It's a mentality standpoint. I still think Lincoln Riley is one of the greatest offensive coaches in the country. The problem is that's only one third of the game, right? I think he's addressed the defensive side of the ball. Let's see what happens there. The schedule doesn't favor you in the years when you come into the Big Ten. You also open with LSU and close with Notre Dame.
Yeah,
so that's tough.
And Notre Dame's going to be pretty good up front, even though they did lose their anchor to the draft. I think it was the 5th overall pick to the Titans, I believe, unless I'm losing my mind there. Also about USC, Miller Moss. Look, again, we don't have a big sample size. You got a little Stetson Bennett in him. I think when you watch him play, I'm not saying he is going to be Stetson Bennett, but he kind of reminds me of him a little bit. I don't ever worry. You got Woody Marks, Mississippi State's running back, transferred there, who's a really good player. I don't worry about Lincoln Riley on offense. I really don't. I think offensively, he will find a way to manufacture points. The question is, I think USC is a one-trick pony. And that trick is to just try and you want to outscore everybody to win the game, but they can only really win one way. I don't see USC winning a 17-14 game. And in the Big Ten, sometimes it's going to be like that. And then you look at the weather that you're going to be walking into later in the year. This ain't Southern California, right? This isn't doses and mimosas. You're going up there, it's igloos and FU. That's what it is. So when we bring up USC's schedule, let's go ahead and bring that up. This to me is decently daunting. LSU game 1, LSU's got a lot to prove. David and Blaine defensively, bringing in Blake Baker. We'll see how that works out. That's never easy. Utah State, no Blake Anderson there, should win. Then you go to Michigan, September 21.
You're dead.
Which is going to be like getting drowned in a puddle of water. It is exactly the opposite of what USC is in my mind. Then you get Wisconsin at home. Winnable.
Different Wisconsin team.
Different Wisconsin. This is the air raid, buddy.
Yeah.
They're sitting in a bunch of those big cave trolls up front. Then you go to Minnesota, which I do not think is a good matchup for USC. I just don't. With the way PJ and them operate up there, we'll see. Then you get Penn State at home. Then you go to Maryland. Then you get Rutgers at home. You're at Washington. You host Nebraska. You're at UCLA. And then you finish with Notre Dame in that rivalry game. So, boys, I'm looking up there. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It smells 6 and 6-ish to me, which is going to cause a lot of alarm, right? Over there at USC.
That won't be good enough. Not with bringing Lincoln Riley over from Oklahoma. I do want to make this point a little more concisely here. If USC does struggle in the Big Ten early, and if it looks like, they just don't mesh with the style of football you need to play, I still don't think it's a USC brand problem as much.
I think it's a Lincoln Riley problem. I think you're exactly right.
Yeah,
I think that's right.
I've seen USC play the style of football. I mean, just remember the Reggie Bush, the 1-2 punch they had with him and Lindell White. I
remember Dominique Byrd at tight end,
and play defense. They're going to be fine as a brand in the conference. The question is that going to happen under Lincoln Riley?
But we see the same team almost every year from Lincoln Riley. He's had 3 Heisman winners at quarterback, guys, never won a national championship. That's insane for me to think. But Blaine, the question, and David brings us up, and we want to know in the chat and on the phone lines that are going to open up here in a minute what y'all think. If this does not work out year 1 for USC, and they just get physically overwhelmed up front, and it just looks like you're fitting a square peg in a round hole. Even though Lincoln Riley made that move from Alex Grinch playing, do you think USC won't be able to assimilate into the Big Ten? Not saying you have to do everything that other Big Ten teams do, but do you think USC will never assimilate into the Big Ten unless they make a change at head coach? Because I'll tell you this much, my ass would much rather have Brent Venables as the head coach going into the Big Ten, just like I'd rather have him at Oklahoma going in the SEC than I would Lincoln Riley. Because we want to talk about, James Franklin can't win the big game, and Lincoln Riley have won some big games, but they always have the same problem. And this is the worst problem. This would be like if you're allergic to meat and you work in a deli.
I think, one, you can only get punched in the face so many times until you fix it.
But Lincoln Riley's been punched in the face all the time.
Literally, and remember, Lincoln Riley ran from the SEC. Let's all be honest.
When do you fix
Lincoln
it?
ran from the SEC.
They paid him a lot of money.
Soft. You ran.
They paid him
all right,
a lot.
You ran.
Of
You
money.
went out west when the only teams that play defense are Utah and Oregon and Washington. I'll give that credit too. But it's a Lincoln Riley problem, not a USC problem. Look what Oregon's doing with Dan Lanning. People want to go play at the Southern California, Hollywood, money. You're in the middle of the mecca of an age where kids just see bright lights and fame. That's all they want. This is a Lincoln Riley problem. And you're about to run into teams in this conference that aren't for the flash, that don't care about wearing wristbands, are getting spatted, are cool helmets. They just want to run the ball and hit you. You're about to walk into that, and it's not going to be sweet and sugar Halloween all the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a 6-6 USC team, a 7-5 USC team. And then you start hearing what? That chirping about Lincoln Riley, which we've heard before. You might have gave him the solar system, but sooner or later, God has to come down and tell you you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, that's true. What's up, YouTube? Appreciate you guys stopping by. Hey, listen, if you don't mind, that subscribe button. If you haven't, if you have, get somebody else to subscribe. And if you've already done that, then get everyone to subscribe.